Hello and welcome. You're with Business Today. I'm Sally Bundock. We are starting with a look at global IT resilience. Later today, a senior executive at the tech security firm CrowdStrike will face questions from US Congress about their disastrous software update that caused the largest global IT outage in history. On July the 19th, a bug-infested update was sent to millions of computers running Microsoft Windows around the world, crashing the systems of organizations from banking to healthcare and airlines. According to one estimate, the disaster cost top US firms more than $5 billion. Microsoft has announced changes to how it interacts with third-party security firms. Our technology editor Zoe Kleinman looks at the effects of the outage.
Thousands of flights grounded, doctors' appointments cancelled, TV channels falling off air. The IT outage felt around the world in July has been described as the worst cyber event in history. Microsoft said around 8.5 million computers around the world were disabled after a cybersecurity company called CrowdStrike sent out a corrupted software update to its nearly 24,000 customers, many of them huge companies we rely on in our everyday lives.
Look at Jensen.
Are we going to Disney?
We're going to Disneyland right now.
Jo and her children were among the thousands affected by the chaos.
No explanation whatsoever. Everybody was just, crowding around people who worked at the airport, and they were just like, we don't know what's going on.
What's the point of making us stand there?
Aye.
We've been here since 10 this morning.
I was heartbroken at the end of it, actually.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Jo managed to get money back for the cancelled flights, but she lost almost £1,000 on her Disneyland tickets.
13 hours we have waited. Each month I was finding myself skint because I'm putting away £328 each month of my wage, and I'm not full time, I'm only part time,
That's a lot to save, isn't it?
Yeah, and then just for that £900 just to be gone. I'm just, and then all the money I spent on the outfits, that was £300 for all the clothes to take them there and things like that as well. And can't take them with them next year because they'll outgrown them and stuff.
Oh, this is brutal.
Yeah.
So how did this happen? It's a tale of two glitches. CrowdStrike says it did have a system in place to make sure its updates worked properly before it released them. But a glitch in that system meant it didn't pick up another glitch in the update itself. And we all know what happened after that. As you'd expect, the company now says better testing and checks will help in the future. Tough questions are expected for CrowdStrike later today, when one of its bosses will be grilled by US lawmakers in Congress.
The key answers that we need from this hearing is, firstly, confirmation of the technical detail of what went wrong. Secondly, what was the failure in process here? Has a failure of process been identified? And if so, thirdly, what has changed since, and what are CrowdStrike going to do to prevent this going wrong in future?
It may seem shocking that a company many people had never heard of could cause so much chaos. But it's also a reminder of just how fragile digital life can be and how little control we have over the tech which drives it. Zoe Kleinman, BBC News.
Well, I'm joined by James Bourse, a cyber security expert. Thanks, James, for being on the programme. Since that event took place, CrowdStrike has published what's described as a jargon-riddled root cause analysis as to what did go wrong. Also, Microsoft hosted an event in September where CrowdStrike attended. Key security partners, the government representatives were there to discuss what happened and what should take place next. What are your thoughts on what we might learn today? Are we going to learn anything new today?
I doubt there'll be very much new. We're going to have the same sort of technical jargon coming out of CrowdStrike. They did describe what happened, but they didn't describe anything about why. There was no accountability on who signed off on those particular testing procedures, how those design flaws in those procedures were allowed to creep in. There will have been risk assessments around that type of thing, and therefore someone should be accountable. We need something that's not so laden with jargon.
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft has said that it's improving security and it's got safe deployment practices in place for its customers. Are you assured by that?
Particularly because Microsoft have had fairly good deployment practices for their customers for a long time now, and we do still get these problems, even with the best practices in place. You can have different software on different systems which will interact in peculiar ways. You can have things just go wrong in transmission. So we've seen these problems happen time and time again. This just happened to be the largest and most dramatic.
In Zoe's report there, we heard of individuals impacted, businesses have been impacted. Will anyone get any kind of compensation for the serious impact it may have had, certainly on small businesses, for example?
So CrowdStrike are talking about a damages bill, so they've got some money set aside to pay damages. Whether that will go to any of their smaller customers is very much up in the air. I suspect there's going to be long legal battles around it. And for some businesses which are smaller, they're not going to survive long enough to ever see any compensation come in.
And in terms of lessons learned, obviously we don't want to experience this again. Certainly CrowdStrike doesn't want to, Microsoft and clients. So what could prevent this happening again in the future?
To prevent it happening again at this sort of scale, what we really would need is a more diverse technology industry. We would need more companies with different solutions spread out much more. The problem is we rely on a very small number of companies, even though most people aren't aware, to provide most security, most control over the world's technology.
Okay. James, thank you very much for your analysis. James Ball, their cybersecurity expert.